Night number 3 of the Hercules Tire CAA Men's Basketball Championship has come to a close. I'm Bobby Broyles along with Bill Potter. And Bill, we found out tonight who the last two teams are. And once again, it's going to be Hofstra versus Northeastern, part 2 of what has been pretty much a tremendous rivalry. But first, let's recap the semifinals. Delaware versus Hofstra was the first semifinal today, and the Pride came away with the victory.
You know, the Pride made it back to that CAA championship, and that's been their motivation for most of the year, Bobby. They took the disappointment of last season's loss in that title game to Northeastern, and, you know, we heard from Eli Pemberton in the post-game press conference saying how much that has really motivated them to get back to the championship this year. And they started off against Delaware, a program that's on the rise, and we certainly look forward to some big things from the Blue Hens next year. But the Pride took Delaware's best shot early, and then they caught fire from three-point range, hitting 9 threes in the first half on their way to 12 in the game. As you know, they pulled away in the second half and then weathered a storm from Delaware. Delaware fought back in the second half to close within 8 points it was, and then Hofstra once again responded, and that was the senior leadership that head coach Joe Mahalik talked about in his post-game press conference.
Yes, he did. And Jalen Ray as well had a big game for the Pride as they will head to the CAA Championship once again, and they're going to be facing a familiar foe in the Northeastern Huskies as they were able to pull away late versus the Elon Phoenix, who that was their third game in 3 days, Bill.
You know it was, and for the Phoenix, it was a historic run to the CAA semifinals. First time in program history they've achieved that. But you could see Northeastern had a real solid game plan to jump on Elon early, and they were able to do that behind Bolden Brace, and then Tyson Walker came off the bench to give the Huskies a real spark as they were able to build a big lead in the first half, and then weathered a bit of an Elon storm in the second half. As head coach Mike Shiragi was very proud of the way his team fought back, even though they were down 20 points in the game at one point, and they were able to close within 7, just couldn't get it much closer than that. And Jordan Rowland hit some real dagger three-pointers down the stretch, and the Huskies are back in the CAA championship now for the 3rd straight year. They're just the 5th program in CAA history to make it to the title game 3 or more consecutive seasons.
Yeah, congratulations to Bill Cohen and the Huskies as they will be in the title game tomorrow. So let's set the scene, Bill. It's Northeastern versus Hofstra. We've seen this story before. We saw it last year. It is part 2 of what has become, like I said earlier, a pretty good rivalry between these two teams.
You know, it really has, Bobby, and it's one of the premier rivalries in the CAA these days. And both programs, with head coach Joe Mahalik in Hofstra and head coach Bill Cohen at Northeastern, these programs have really built solid foundations where you expect to see them deep into the CAA tournament year over year, and certainly, you know, we're primed for a rematch between the two of them after Northeastern took the title last year. It'll be Hofstra looking for a measure of revenge against the Huskies coming up tomorrow night.
Yes, and what are some of the keys that you're kind of looking for in this game? Obviously, some great guard play on both sides here for both Northeastern and Hofstra.
You know, it's going to be a fascinating game, and, you know, it'll be interesting to see the wrinkles both coaches throw at one another. We saw in the regular season, it was Hofstra coming back at Northeastern, you know, with Eli Pemberton hitting the game-winning jumper in the final second. And then when the teams were up in Hempstead, it was Northeastern getting out to a large lead. They were up 14 points in the second half before Hofstra rallied in that one. So in both instances, teams built big leads on the road only to see the other team come back. So I think both coaches are going to emphasize locking in for 40 minutes. It doesn't matter if we get behind early. We've come back before. We can come back again. And to your point, Bobby, there's great guard play on both sides of the ball. You have 2 first-team all-league guards in Deshore Bowie at Hofstra and Jordan Rowland at Northeastern. That's going to be a prime matchup to watch, see how Deshore Bowie matches up defensively against Jordan Rowland. And then on the opposite end, Eli Pemberton's been awesome for Hofstra throughout this tournament. He led them in scoring again tonight, and he's really taken over early in the second half. You almost see it that he's willing his team to these wins in some instances, and so that'll be another thing to look for tomorrow is just, you know, some of these seniors, they've tasted victory. You know, Northeastern with Bolden Brace, with Jordan Rowland, they know what it takes to win that CAA title. For Hofstra, they've focused all year on winning the CAA title, and how can we do that? What are those little margins that we need to win? And so with Deshore and Eli, I would look to them to get Hofstra over the hump if they're going to win that CAA championship.
It's the CAA Hercules Tire Men's Basketball Championship here tomorrow night at the Entertainment Sports Arena. It should be a great one, Bill. CBS Sports Network at 7 o'clock, and of course, remember to stay with CASports.com for all the latest here at the tournament.